seems like you have some serious anger issues as
That
well.
was on a constant
Yeah, I'm
basis.
talking now. You've had your opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
And your inappropriate laughter makes me think that you might have some psychological issues that need to be addressed.
I'm not sorry, Miss Jackson. Who else has been craving some classic Miss Jackson hearings? Well, I have to give a special shout out to our subby, Ray Kincaid. Thank you for pointing out this hearing. It's interesting. Ray said, you should check out this hearing, man. I put the DOC in our Richard spreadsheet and it popped up there, highlighted as something to do, a hearing all the way from 2021, but I had just forgotten about it. So thank you, Sir Ray. Anyways, let's jump in for some Miss Jackson classic.
This is the case for Gino Crucia, DOC 375125, classified as a fourth felony offender. Offense, possession of heroin. Sentencing date, November 13, 2014. Sentence to 20 years DOC. Parole date is July 15, 2019. Good time, not eligible. Full term is July 15, 2034. Is this information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Miss Jackson.
Morning, Mr. Crucia.
Yes, ma'am. Good
How are
morning.
you this morning?
I'm holding up. I'm hanging in there. I'm very fortunate to have this meeting.
Okay. Well, we're just going to talk about some things relative to your case. I've reviewed your case and it's been assigned to me. So I'll have some questions for you this morning. You're serving a 20-year sentence on a possession of heroin and you were treated as an habitual offender. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
How much of that sentence have you actually served?
I've served 7 years, 3 months, 3.5 months to be precise.
And I want to talk to you about a couple of things. I want to talk to you about your addiction. I want to talk to you about your disciplinary record within the institution. As I was reviewing your case, all of your past criminal offenses have, for the most part, been drug-related offenses. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, it has.
When did you first start using drugs?
I'd have to say probably around the age of 13.
And how is it that you started using drugs at age 13?
Well, I started smoking marijuana.
But still 13 is it's early for drug use. So why at 13 were you using marijuana?
Well, I had a difficult life coming up as a child, and I was searching for a way to possibly find an escape, and that was a gateway towards the escape.
And was that related to the death of your stepfather?
No, that was my real father, Joseph Crucial. He died.
And how old were you when he died?
Yeah, I was 8, and I was 18 years of age.
Okay, so even before he died, you were already using drugs.
Yes,
ma'am. I see you've got prior convictions for possession of cocaine, Xanax. So what was your primary drug of choice?
It was really, when I was younger, it was normally just the marijuana. I was using that I'd use it almost every day. It was a very tough childhood, though.
I understand that, Mr. Crucia, but I want to know about your actual drug use.
Okay.
What other drugs did you use beside marijuana?
I've used cocaine, Xanax, prescription medications, LSD, ecstasy. I mean, I've done a list of different drugs. I haven't done the special K or GHB. I've left that alone. But the other drugs I've pretty much have pertained to, I've used during my coming up as not only as a youth, but as I grew older. And I was basically, trying to find, I guess you could say, the facts of why everything went the way it did when I was such a young adolescent, and some of the things that I've experienced over time. It grew on me, and it was like I guess you could say, a fungus. It was a bacteria because it it kept me it kept me down. I
Well,
never prevailed.
Why? Okay. How many times have you actually served time in DOC?
This is my third time.
Uh, and how many times have you been on probation or parole?
2 times.
And either during those periods of probation or parole, or while you were incarcerated, were you ever involved in any sort of substance abuse treatment?
Yes, ma'am. This time right here was the only time that I received substance abuse treatment. I was located in the Tensall department, and I received a certification. It should be in my parole.
Ms. Cruz, you're doing a lot of talking, but you're not addressing my questions. When have you actually gone through substance abuse treatment?
That was in June. I completed the course in June of 2019.
What course are you referring to?
The 27-step course. They went over a bunch of different variety of, I guess you could say, drugs. And
where did you complete this 27-week course, Mr. Christian?
Well, it wasn't a 27-week course. It was a 9-week course, I believe, and it was a 27-step course at Tensall Parish Correction Center.
All right, so about 9 weeks of substance abuse treatment.
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to being incarcerated, did you ever seek substance abuse treatment on the outside?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I thought about it a few times. It was relatively, I guess you could just say, bad decision making on my part.
So you actually admit that you didn't want to stop using drugs?
Well, it wasn't that. It's just I had children out there, and I was always caught in the midst of trying to do as much as I can or as best as I can for them.
Mr. Cruz here, you would agree that the best thing you could have done for your children was to get clean and sober.
Yes, ma'am, I do realize that.
And really, you shouldn't use your children as an excuse for
Not
your failure to address your substance abuse problem.
Yes, ma'am.
I also want to talk about your prison record during this incarceration.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
2020, you were written up 4 times, 3 for defiance and 1 for an aggravated work offense. Talk to the board about those write-ups. What did they involve, and why were you getting written up?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I felt as if people were messing with me while I was sleeping. So I would become very defiant, and
Okay,
I know that it's not.
let's stop right there, Mr. Garcia.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna try to find the page that I'm looking for. I don't know what people you're referring to. Let's talk about, you had 3 on June 8th of 2020. For aggravated, I'm sorry, for defiance. 3 all on June 8th, 2020. So tell me what happened on June 8th of 2020 that caused you to get these write-ups.
Well, I obviously got into it with, I think he's Captain Lofton now, but he was a lieutenant at the time. I can't remember exactly what it pertained to, but I was upset about what the prior engagements of me being housed in this facility. And I hold a lot of, sometimes I hold it in, and
Ms. Garcia,
get very
again,
upset.
you're talking a lot, but you're not addressing my question. Now, I find it hard to believe that when you got 3 separate write-ups on June 8th of 20, that you don't remember the details of that incident or those incidences that led to your getting those write-ups.
Well, I must have just, I'm gonna be quite honest with you. I was just very upset and disgruntled with the office.
About what?
Well, I mean, sometimes I make bad decisions in here as well. I'm not perfect. I'm only human. I try to make the best decisions as I can possibly make.
What decision did you make on June 8th of 2020?
Well, I obviously must have disrespected disrespected the officer at that time. I was probably defiant. In all actuality, I didn't mean to be, but nonetheless, it did happen. So I do apologize for my actions, but all I can do is strive forward to maintain and become a better person.
On October 16th of 2020, you got a write-up. What was that about? That was an aggravated fighting. Tell me about that. Surely you remember that.
Well, yes, ma'am, I do.
All right, let's hear it.
This man kept on disrespecting me, dancing behind me, ridiculing me to tolerate insidious and malicious actions. So I felt I was obliged to entertain it, because sometimes that's the only necessary means of protecting yourself within this facility,
Well,
is by standing up for yourself. So I mean,
but
if
again,
if there's something wrong with that, I apologize, but I can only be who I am as a man. I can't.
exactly, and that's exactly right. You can only be who you are, and that's why you're where you are today, because you don't recognize.
And I mean, I'm not laughing because I don't find it. It's not funny. It's just it really does kind of just catch me off guard, because the possibility that you would think I'd lie about such an incident, because I truly would. I try to be as best of a man as I can, and I do take on a lot of ridicule on a daily basis in this place, and it hurts. I've got kids out there, and
Ms.
they
Garcia, you've been in prison for 7.
I can't do that while
Ms.
I'm
Garcia,
stuck in here. But the thing is that
Mr.
y'all try to
Garcia.
focus on all the
Mr.
negative
Garcia.
things, and I'm not trying to focus on the negative.
Okay, Ms. Garcia, thank you. I think you've told me all I need to know. Thank you very much. I don't have any questions of you. I'd like to talk to the administration of the prison to find out what you can add about Mr. Garcia. Is there anyone who can tell us something about Mr. Garcia's behavior and what those write-ups were about in June of 2020?
Yes, ma'am. I'll put some insight on that. Gino arrived here. He'd been assigned here previously, but he returned here to the facility here in March of 20. And actually that was at a request to help him get closer to his family in this area, his mother. And unfortunately, after Gino arrived, his disciplinary, as you reflected in your comments, was very difficult. I think he had ended up having 6, 7, 8 write-ups between his arrival date and that last write-up of that aggravated fight. Since then, he has quieted down, but he isn't involved in any programs currently.
Yes, I'm enrolled in the pre-release class.
So he is recently enrolled in pre-release.
Well, I've
But
filed to,
Yeah, but I mean, currently, that's all.
Currently,
of
you're
them,
enrolled
correct?
in that.
I'm only
Okay.
enrolled in the pre-release. I've filed for multiple different availabilities, but they
Okay.
don't have any
And
at the current time.
Crystal, I don't know if you have some insight into what those write-ups actually were.
I just glanced at her, Ms. Jackson, and, you know, there was, yes, the fight, and the other defiances, just defiance towards staff was those that you were referring to.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Wise, that's all I have.
I can't hear.
You're muted, Mr. Wise.
Okay, I'm sorry. At this time, I see there's no one else to speak. Good morning, Warden Cooley. How you doing?
All right, Mr. Wise, how you been?
I'm doing great there. Gino, is anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
Yes, sir. I'm really trying.
She's gonna address.
I'm sorry, I apologize. We have Miss Courtney who will be speaking.
Okay, well, I didn't see it where it said speaking on it, and now I see it on there. Okay, Ms. Courtney, go ahead, unmute your mic.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Courtney Walters. I am Gino's oldest sibling, and I can tell you firsthand that growing up and seeing Gino as a child, he was definitely the one with the biggest heart. My stepfather, without really going into big detail, was not the kindest man. I did not stay in that house for very long, probably my first 12 years. And I went to St. Catherine, then I went to Mount Carmel, but my stepfather was quite abusive. He had a huge effect upon that family. And ultimately, when he died, he left them pretty much destitute. Gina was unable to finish school. My 2 other siblings, they all had to part. They all went separate ways. But my point of the matter is that Gino came to come live with me, I don't know, several years back, about 9 or 10 years ago. He was extremely helpful with my children. At that time, they were younger. And then also he worked with my husband, and he was extremely productive. And there's not enough good things. I know that you guys can only see things from one perspective, but as a human being, and just, I understand with the violence that apparently took place while he's incarcerated, but on the exterior side, Gino has nothing more but just inflicted nonviolent crimes of drugs that he was never really rehabilitated for. And I think he was too young to really go into any type of drug program and grasp that concept of rehabilitating himself under the circumstances of his personal life. So with that being said, that's part of why it was like a spiraling depression before he could really recognize the drugs he was dealing with, a form of major depression. And for as long as he's been incarcerated for self-infliction, I feel like it's, somewhat extremely unfair, because I've seen other people with greater consequences that they have committed against others that have had lesser sentences. So with that, and with him taking care of my mother, who is 3 miles up the road, she just had spinal surgery. I picked out the doctor, Dr. Wolf in Lake Charles. She's not doing well. And my stepfather, who knows he's lived in Kinder his whole life. I forgot the name of the hurricane last year, but he got very ill and he wound up losing one of his legs. So I know that they would definitely be able to utilize Gino's help. And Gino has always been a very hard worker. There has not been a moment in which he has not. I mean, he's not lazy. I feel like with everything that has happened to his life and the rehabilitation with what you guys have provided, aside from, there's certain, types of people in there with anger issues, that he is a functioning individual. And I feel that he's over his drug addiction 100%.
Okay. Thank you very much. Gino, is anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
Yes, sir. I've been incarcerated for now. It's been a very long time, and I've learned my lesson. I've truly I've stayed away. That there's been many times through this last year that I've had to tolerate a lot of ridicule, and it hurts. It hurts me so much as a human being to undergo such ridicule and on a daily basis. But nonetheless, I've pushed through. I've strived through with the utmost, unique ways of just pushing and setting aside all the negativity and striving forward. I've even been reluctant enough to go to work and put the new benches in Jupiter, which is keeping my mind occupied on working in positive things again. Nonetheless, I know that sometimes I get a little riled up. I try to handle that in as much of a diplomatic way as possible. But you have to remember, though, sometimes, Mr. Wise, that this place right here is very unforgiving. And the things that we go through on a daily basis it hurts, it hurts the soul. It really does. I'm trying, I'm trying my hardest to be on the best behavior that I could possibly be on, but it's tough. I mean, I'd like to be reestablished with society to get back to the normal ways of life. This place is, very difficult to obtain those measures, but I'm ready for it. I've never been more ready in my life. I've lost an older sister to a heroin overdose, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't plan on using any drugs anytime soon, especially anything like in of that nature, because they're cutting it with fentanyl and overdosing people, with crazy amounts of that stuff in the cut. And on top of it, I have children to guide out there, and they're at the most desperate times of their life needing guidance, being that they're coming into their teenage years. I'm just wanting to finally have an opportunity to do what's right and make things right again. I know I've made my share of mistakes in the past, but I'm just trying as hard as I can to get back out there. And believe you me when I say this, it is an everyday battle to try and just strive forward in a positive direction. But yet, I have accomplished these means. Thank you for your time, Mr. Wise.
Okay, at this time, the board will be voting. We start Ms. Bonnie Jackson.
All right. Ms. Crescia, I will tell you, my first thought when just looking at your case was 20 years seems like a really long time for a possession charge. And most of your offenses have been possession related. I do see that there was an aggravated battery along with possession of cocaine in 1996.
Yes, ma'am.
But talking to you, Ms. Cruz here, I'm gonna be honest with you, I was not impressed by your behavior during this hearing. I was not impressed by your demeanor. And I don't feel like you've really grown very much. Yes, prison is hard, but you're not the only one that it's hard for. And we've actually had people who've been decades in prison and never got a single write-up. I know that seems unbelievable to you, but we've had people who have had fewer write-ups than you, and they've been in prison a lot longer than you. I'm concerned that you don't, the most substance abuse treatment you've had is a 9-week program. You've had a lifelong addiction. And heroin is a very hard addiction to overcome. I'm also concerned that you appear to be hot-headed and that you justify your behavior. You are the inmate. The guards are the ones who are in positions of authority, and you don't seem to be able to accept that. And so you get 3 defiance charges, and then a fighting charge because somebody was gesturing behind you. It seems like you have some serious anger issues as well.
That was on a constant
Yeah, I'm talking now. You've had your opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
And your inappropriate laughter makes me think that you might have some psychological issues that need to be addressed. And I think that if you were to be released at this point in time, you're going to fall back into your own old habits and your old lifestyle because you haven't acquired the tools that you need to be successful. And what I think you need is long-term substance abuse treatment within the institution. And if you get that and you gain some insight into your addiction and your role, see, you blame everything on your hard life and your childhood. You blame everybody else for your problems, and you don't even see that. You're sitting there and shaking your head, and you don't even see, sir, I'm talking. So, Ms. Garcia, I don't think you're ready. I really don't think you're ready. And so my vote today is to deny your parole for the write-ups that you've had and your lack of substance abuse programs. So that's my vote to deny today. Mr. Wise, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. This time, Mr. Roach will be voting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, good morning, Ms. Garcia. How are you?
I'm hurt, but it's.
Okay. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to tell Warren Cooley hello and Ms. Simon. I hadn't seen them in a while.
Hello. How you doing, Mr. Rocha?
Mr. Garcia,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to be quite frank with you this morning. You had a terrible interview. You need to brush up on your interview etiquette. You tried to talk over people. You just were very emotional. You're very condescending. And you blamed everything because you were young. You were 42 years old when you committed 7 disciplinary write-ups in 2020. We didn't even talk about the contraband charge, the simple fight you had early in 2020. And all you went to segregated quarters 3 or 4 times in 2020. These were very serious write-ups. You weren't young then, you were 42 years old. Based on a general disciplinary conduct that's totally unacceptable, you have law enforcement opposition, the DA's office is opposed to your early release. You have a poor supervision history. You've been revoked at least twice, and you have an extensive criminal history. For all these reasons, I'm going to deny your request this morning.
Okay, Gino, at this time, I'm going to be voting because of your disciplinary write-ups, it's going to be hard. I'm going to tell you what you need to do. You need to go in there and start doing time. Don't let time do you. Get into some program. Don't be fussing and fighting with people causing any problems up there, and you'll come back again. I can tell the way you shake your head and you nod your head. Today, I'm voting to deny because of your disciplinary write-ups and your loss of good time. Thank you very much. That concludes today's hearing.
I'm not sorry, Miss Jackson. What a classic. Have you been looking forward to seeing another one of these Miss Bonnie Jackson classics? And we even got the Mr. O'Shea with the left and Bonnie Jackson with the right. And Jim Wise even got one in there. And I don't know how you feel about the cat thing. It's not my typical style, but I don't know. I couldn't help myself. And this is 3 years later, and from the spreadsheet that Sir Richard has, I'm looking at his doc, and he is still locked up. And frankly, with Louisiana's latest rules, first it was you had to have 1 year before write-up. They just recently changed it with the new governor to 3 years without a write-up. And as I think we can all guess, this man is probably incapable of going 1 year, not at least 3 years without a write-up. So he may have to do his full term. And I mean, it's interesting. If this had been Iowa, they would have said, that's really insightful. This is a great hearing. And they would have paroled him. But Louisiana, no, not on this panel's watch. Actually, not on any panel's watch. It's not going to happen. You can't get away with it. He's clearly not ready to be out. He has the maturity of a garden hose. I mean, it's, and his, how, anyways, there is an appeal. It's quite interesting how he got caught and how, it was really just, he's caught at the gas. It was like a regular stop that they just, again, this wasn't possession intent to distribute. He got pulled over at a gas station. They found the substances or whatever. And a judge was just like, enough's enough, and locked him up for a long time. And, you can see that. And I won't go over the appeal right now because I actually want to jump into another hearing, and it's a hearing of a roach, and it's another Miss Bonnie Jackson classic. And if you want to see more of these Miss Bonnie Jackson classics, or maybe it's a Mr. Marabella classic or a Mr. Marochet classic, send me an email or let me know in the comments section, or do what Ray did and actually send me the name and DOC number. That's the biggest help, because we have every single DOC number, thanks to Richard, lined up in our spreadsheet. It takes me a second to find the case and pull up all the documents. And, I want to deliver it to you. So if you can help me, I will deliver for you. If you've been watching this channel long enough, you would know how seriously I take my privacy. So when I saw in the news that National Public Data announced that they suffered a major breach, potentially impacting every American, that really blew my mind. They say that over 2.9 billion records that are used for background checks. This includes personal information like full names, address, date of birth, phone numbers, and social security numbers, that it's been hacked, and confirmed that members of the hacker group release this information online for free for everyone to access. Why they would do this, who knows? But when they're caught, when we cover their parole hearing, I hope that it's a resounding deny. Now, anyways, if you haven't been taking your personal information online seriously, I think now is the time to change that. We are more vulnerable than ever before with today's landscape, and thankfully, I feel secure with Aura, the sponsor of today's video. I've been using Aura for nearly a year now. I get an email in my inbox every week. I click into it. I get all the information right there. It makes me sleep better at night. And on top of it, they offer $5 million in identity theft insurance for worst case scenario. There's a side quality of life improvement as well that I personally love. And that is that Aura has nearly stopped all spam calls. I used to get 6, 7 a day. It stopped. That to me makes it worth it in itself. If you want to give it a 2-week trial, go to the link in the description below, aura.com/Mandu. Please keep in mind that there will not be a drop-down option in the YouTube box that says Mandu, but it still will attribute to me if you use that link. Anyways, let's go back to the hearing.
So you are Donald J. Bordelon, your DOC number is 433858. You're classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving a 40-year sentence for forcible rape, aggravated or sexual battery, 2 counts, sexual battery. You were sentenced rather in the Balls Parish on November 13, 2000. Your parole eligibility date's August 1st, 2021. You don't earn good time, and you have a full term date, May 20th, 2040. Is that information correct, sir?
My original paper said I had 85% at 2034, 85%.
Well, what I'm looking at, let's see, this is your master prison record, which is dated March 17 of this year, which shows the full term date in 2040.
Right. I have my court minutes, not with me, but I have them in the dorm.
Well, just so you know, I mean, we rely on DOC, so we're going by the DOC information. Have a dispute with that, you can take up a classification at your facility. Okay. So you're currently in Allen. How old are you, sir?
I just made 58.
Yay. How long have you been in jail?
I've in jail. I've been incarcerated since May 20th, 2000.
Almost 22 years.
Coming up on it.
Maybe a 40-year sentence. So I need to let you know that as part of the process, we reach out to the community to get their attitude about an early release. And in your case, you need to be aware that the entire legal community, law enforcement, they're opposed to an early release. So, Mr. Bordelon, tell us about what you've been doing for the last almost 22 years in terms of rehabilitative programs. Tell us what you've done.
I don't know if you have all my programs in front of you, but here at Allen, they told me that Cottonport, where I come from, which is Raymond Laborde, sent them basically only my pre-release papers. And I said, well, when I got to Cottonport, I had my sexual predator class, anger management, parenting, and so forth. And they said, well, we don't have it here. So I was hoping they sent it to the board, what I did have.
So tell us about, you said you called it sexual predator. So you've taken some sex offender treatment?
Yes, ma'am. I had my certificates. Too many shakedowns. They lost my paperwork in the dorm, shaking us down and wound up everywhere. I never could find them. And they told me they had them already.
Where were you took those classes? Where were you located? What facility?
Angola. I was in Angola at the time. 2003, 2004 is when I was taking all these classes.
Yeah. How many phases of the sex offender treatment class did you take?
All phases.
How many phases?
I believe it was 4 phases.
So tell me what you learned about yourself.
Ma'am?
What did you learn during those classes?
Well, I've learned a lot of words that I did not know, and I learned a lot about myself and so forth. That's what I mostly learned.
What did you learn about yourself?
About myself?
Yes, sir.
What I learned about myself is how disappointed person that I am about myself, and looking at what I've learned in there and hearing from other men that were up in there. Actually, I became very scared is what I learned about the situation for me. You know, going to these classes makes me more aware of who I am, who I could be. And I scare myself, you know, and that's what I've learned.
So, Mr. Bordelon, let's just talk a little bit about why you're in jail. So, according to the records that we have, the victims in this case were your biological daughter and your niece. And how old were they?
Oh, around 9, 10.
And so during the course of your, were there drugs and alcohol involved in this crime?
No, ma'am, I don't have a drug problem. Drink every now and then, at parties, I might drink there. Every now and then I might buy like a 6-pack. It was never a problem. That's not why I did what I did. It's drugs and
So
alcohol.
during the course of your treatment, did you figure out why you did what you did?
I was always, my wife would always ask me, why are you so quiet? I could never come up because when I grew up, bad things happened to me, but that's another story. I did what I did. That's on me. Maybe long ago when I was young, I should have said something to my mother and father. I did, and I had a lot of things held inside me. And it's my fault. I did what I did. I mean, when I did what I did, I told myself, don't do it, don't do it. I wouldn't do it. And I went to a depressive state. And I thought, well, maybe what you want to do. And the more I did it,
How long of a period of time did this happen? This
it was
wasn't a
over like a 2-year
one time.
period.
Excuse me?
It was like over a 2-year period.
Have you given any thought to the fact that your actions had on those young girls?
It was devastating to them because my daughter had written me and she said she almost committed suicide, and I didn't at that time when I did what I did, I wasn't seeing that. And hearing her, well, not hearing her, but her writing me and her telling me how she felt, but did she still miss me? That hurt. That hurt me bad.
I wish I had the documentation that you completed the sex offender treatment. We don't have anything like that in our record. So let me ask you this, Mr. Bordelon, why do you believe that we, and given the nature of your crime and the impact you've had on your victims, why do you think we ought to grant you an early release?
Well, one, I need to be back in society. I need to prove myself right. I need to prove myself right to my victim. I want to make it right for her. And I want her to see me face to face and tell me how it is. She needs to see me and tell me how it is, how she feels, and I want to do everything for her.
What is your transition plan should you be released early? Where would you live?
There's a guy, his name is Pete, and he has an Air Force, he's just renovating Air Force Base in Lake Charles, and he has a place for me to stay and a job. So that would be my start right there. But of course, always moving up and up and up and getting a better and better job. That's obvious. But I do have a place to stay.
Well, I see that your conduct record is okay. Your last write-up was in 2015, 7 or more years ago. What other are you involved in any programs now?
I I've been moving around since the coronavirus and everything, not right now, but they do have me signed back up for anger management. But I did have anger management. I don't know why they don't have my paperwork, because I went to Cotton Port with it. And I don't know where it's at. It's not my folder.
Well, Ms. Jackson has some questions. Good morning, Mr. Bordelon. My name is Bonnie Jackson. Because we all have the benefit of your documentation about sex offender treatment, I do want to ask some questions. Do you know what a sexual predator is? Is that something that you talked about or was talked about in the sex offender classes?
Well, specifically, what?
You've never heard the term sexual predator?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Sexual predator, voyagers, and stuff like that. Yes.
Talked about that in the sex offender classes?
Yes, ma'am.
What's a pedophile?
A pedophile is someone who likes younger. He's a rapist of young children. That's what a pedophile is.
Are you a pedophile?
I would have to classify myself definitely as one, because I did it. I mean, there's no backing down from what I did, obviously.
You talk about your daughter, but your niece was also a victim.
Yeah, I did touch her in wrong places. I've done that on a couple occasions. I did. But there are no others. They are the only two.
I hope that's correct, but we don't have any way to know that one way or the other. What assurance can we have that if you're released, you wouldn't reoffend? Some other young girl would not be a victim.
Well, for one thing, I never put myself in a situation to be alone with a young child. That's number one. I will walk the other way. But one other thing is realizing what I've done and thinking about it over the 22 years, really, the last 15, the first 5, 6 years of being incarcerated, you're still confused about things. You tend to think, the world ain't better than me. Ain't nobody better than me. I ain't no worse than anybody else. But the last 15 years, yeah, I can't go on like that. I don't want to think of myself like that. I really don't. In fact, when I see kids on TV, I get real scared. I'm like, oh, I can't, and
Okay,
I know.
let me stop, because I heard you mention that earlier. It sounds to me, I'm just paraphrasing what I'm hearing from you.
Right.
Sounds to me is that you yourself are afraid that you possibly do this again. Unless there's some really, really strict controls around you.
Right. I don't ever want to be alone. I don't want to put my situation in that.
I understand that, but what it sounds like to me is that those urges are still there, and your way of protecting yourself and the victim is to not be around young girls alone. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Right. Well, you want to believe that you never reoffend, but I would never put myself in the situation to think that I could reoffend. I say I won't.
Yeah, I understand, right. Because sexual urges can be pretty strong, Mr. Borderline.
Well, sure.
And you may say that you'll make sure you're not around young females, but if those urges start to reemerge, it seems like the urges might overpower your
desire not to reoffend, if that makes sense.
Right, right.
I'm
Well,
hearing you kind of have that fear within yourself that there is a possibility that you could do this again, and the only way you can prevent it is to not be around juveniles. Is that correct?
don't even put myself in the situation to begin with. Right.
But sometimes those situations come up. I mean, unexpectedly, you can't assure that there will never be a time where you won't have access to a child in a situation where it's just you and the child. You could actually go and pick up a child and put that child in a situation where it's just the two of you. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am, I sure do.
But those urges are still there. People with addictions to cocaine, they say, well, I just won't be around it anymore. But when that urge hits you,
Right.
you're going to go look for it. You understand what I'm saying?
I got you. I understand.
And the last time you took sex offender treatment was in 2000 what?
3, I believe, or 4.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I went to my class and I learned a lot from it. I remember things about it, There's always room for improvement. There always is.
So let me ask, Warren, do you all have the sex offender treatment program at your facility?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
All right. Mr. Borderline, it might not be a bad idea for you to, since we don't have documentation of it anyway, it might not be a bad idea for you to reinforce what you learned by taking that program again, since it is offered where you are right now. How do you feel about taking it over again?
If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. I got to do what I have to do. I will go through it pretty quickly. I remember some things about it, so that's a help.
Okay, all right, you're probably right. Gordon, is there anything else you can tell us about Mr. Bordelon? How long has he been at your facility?
Yes, ma'am. He got here in February of this year, so he hadn't been here that long. I haven't had much contact with him at all. I just more or less have the same information y'all have on his disciplinary issues pretty good. And also as far as his programs, all we do have here is his free release on phase 1 and 2. We could not find the other programs he spoke about at Angola and Raymond Board.
Well, Mr. Bordelon, I really think it's essential that you retake sex offender treatment because we have no proof. And without proof, it's as if it never happened. You understand?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you talking with me.
Well, I appreciate y'all time.
Mr. Bordelon, is there a statement you'd like to make to us before we vote?
Ma'am,
Is there a statement you'd like to make to us to wrap it up?
but when would I see y'all again?
Well, we have to vote first, so
Oh,
Asking if you would like to
okay.
make a statement.
I've
before
never.
the-
This is my first time
I
ever in trouble.
Miss Crystal's trying to help you out.
So,
You
Mr. Bordelon, they're asking if you would like to make a statement before they vote for you.
No, I think y'all have what y'all have. I know y'all don't have my paperwork. It may be still at Cotton Board. I'm disappointed about that. I feel that I'm a lot better person. I'm more aware of myself since I've been locked up. I know. I realize how a wicked person I can be, but I also realize I could be a way better person. That's my statement about myself.
Okay. Well, Mr. Bordelon, we'll voting now, and I'm going to vote first. And I think you know the outcome. We believe that you need to take the sex offender treatment. Even if you took it at Angola, I still think you could benefit from retaking it. So my vote today is to deny your parole based on the opposition that's been expressed and also the need for the sex offender treatment. So that's my vote, Ms. Johnson. Likewise, Mr. Bordelon, I'm glad that you're gaining some insight into your situation, but I think that there's some more work that you need to do. I definitely think you need to repeat the sex offender treatment again, and I think you need to do victim awareness, because I really, truly don't think that you understand how devastating this was for both young ladies involved, but particularly the daughter. I mean, she's, her relationship with males for the rest of her life has been impacted by this. And she's torn because you're her father on the one hand, but on the other hand, you're her abuser. So you put her in a no-win situation. And you need to understand that. And the same thing for your niece. Both of those young ladies, their lives have been absolutely devastated. And, to release you today, I think would just cause further devastation to them at this point. And so my vote today is going to be to deny, because strong opposition from the legal community and from the victims, and your need to repeat the sex offender treatment program, as well as victim awareness. But good luck to you, Mr. Bordelon. Keep working hard.
Okay.
It's fine.
Mr. Bordelon, when I read your record, one of the things that impressed me is that you didn't drag out the court system. You got arrested in October, May, and you were sentenced in November. I can see you just kind of want to go ahead and get it done. You accepted it, you owned it. I just wanted to give you a nod for that. But today, my vote is the same. I voted deny for the reasons already stated on the record. Best wishes to you, sir.
All right, Mr. Bordelon, so today your parole's been denied. I recommend that you get with Ms. Crystal or the colonel there and see if you can sign up for the sex offender treatment, also the victim awareness. You'll have the opportunity to reapply, and you have to reapply, and Ms. Crystal can help you figure out when you'll be eligible again. Take the programs. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
What did we just watch? Frankly, it feels like we just saw a caricature of a pedo, of a roach. If you had to say, hey, this is what a roach is, it would be this man with his answers, with his mannerisms, with everything that he said verbatim. I mean, he's right out of casting. It feels like we're watching a morbid Saturday Night Live skit with Miss Jackson there and the pedo over here, and it's insane. His own daughter and his niece, and the way that he talks about it, and it's almost like when Miss Jackson mentioned his niece, it looked like he for a moment was back in time and he was happy thinking about it. They gave him 40 years, which is quite impressive for Louisiana. And it's you can see he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. That might be the understatement of the century. So maybe the detectives were just able to get him to confess, and they got it all. And they did a plea deal, so they wouldn't have to get. But what's scary to think, he's still locked up. He's 60 years old today. Now his full term date is he still has another 10 years left on his sentence. Let me double check that. Okay, it's 16 years. 2040 is his full term date, and he was arguing whether he would get 85%, and they said they don't. Hopefully he was. That was the interesting part too. Like, he seemed to be really low IQ, but at the same time he seems smart enough to know that the interview is over. Remember, he said, "Oh, when do I get to have a new hearing?" Right? when they asked him to give his final statement. That's someone who's smart enough to realize what's going on. We've seen people who don't realize it yet. And he was also, intelligent enough to say, well, the minutes of my court hearing said that I had 85%. So maybe chopping him up to low IQ isn't it's just jumping the gun. It just might be part of his manipulation or just the way that he comes off. It's what is there to say? There's no appeals, there's no court documents, there's no. We probably will see him again, assuming he doesn't have a write-up, which, I was surprised he didn't hear that he had a single write-up at all, period. We probably will see him again. I think it's 5 years for these offenses. So we're probably, this was 8/1/2021. We might see him this in the next 12 months. And if we do, check out the playlist for the return of, that's where we play all of those who we see for a second time. Now, Sir Richard put in the spreadsheet that I should cover this a long time ago. And I missed it. There are so many hearings. There are just thousands. And I'm going to go through these older hearings to look for them. There are so many that I need to cover. I can't believe that I missed this one. The only thing I guess I'm grateful for is that this hearing didn't take place in Connecticut. It didn't take place in Iowa. He would have been sent out with a cookie and a pat on the back, and this was a good hearing and a parole. And for those of you, that's the truth. If you haven't seen the Iowa hearings, check the link below for my second channel. I'm not trying to look like I'm promoting myself. I'm just being, it's serious stuff, right? And then check out the Iowa playlist. It's disturbing, and I was shocked when I first saw Iowa because I thought Iowa was going to be strict on crime, but not when it comes to parole. They are nuts. I call them psychopaths. I don't know what the right word is, but they parole left and right with a pat on the back and a cookie. I have nothing else to add here. Miss Jackson handled it I just love the way she nonchalantly asked, you know what a pedophile is? You know what a sexual predator is? Because that's what you are, sir. Really, was what it was. Where's the DA? Of course, the DA doesn't show up. This is the type of case where you need the DA. But I think it's if you ever you want to show what a monster looks like, what a roach looks like, what a pedophile looks like, this is it. This is it right here. You don't need to go any farther. And with that, I'll let you go.
Are you a pedophile?
I would have to classify myself definitely as one, because I did it. There's no backing down from what I did, obviously.